Fernando's talking about English, right? And he wants to improve his English. Now, Fernando, you understand me very well, right? You know, you're here, you participate in these events, you're writing in English, right? Improve my English, algorithm data structure, and it's something that's not very common here. At least to work, at least work to international company. I mean, your English is good on writing, right? So, what is the thing that you think you need to improve in your English? Because let me tell you this. Of course, we can always improve our English, right? There's no doubt about that. We can always improve our language skills. That's what skills is all about, right? Skills, we can always improve our skills. That's the best thing of all about skills. Not about learning, it's about having these skills. So you can always go better in improving better your English skills. Now, the thing is, you know, if you read and write English, right, you should be okay in terms of English, right? Because you're alphabetized. That's what I say all the time, right? You're alphabetized in English, right? So that means that you can 100% work. You know, you can 100% improve your listening and speaking skills because you read and write. So now it looks like you also listen to English well because you're here with us. So maybe the only thing that's missing is you want to speak better, right? And look, Fernando, there's no other way to speak English than if you just go and speak, because you read, you write, and you understand. So I mean, you have a good English. That's what I want you to know. Now, for you to speak, the only way to do that is speak, because you have to get your brain to be able to speak English without having to think, oh, let me think this phrase in Portuguese and how I'm going to say that in English, right? This whole process of translating from Portuguese to English, that's very tiring for the brain, right? So you have to get your brain to figure that out, right? And solve it, right? In a faster way than it is right now. So for this, you have to practice. You have to speak all the time, right? So so you think doing some interviews, some words are missing, and sometimes I need to think a lot, and it can slow down my description and explanations. So so that's very normal, Fernando, and it depends on what you're gonna do, right? So that's one interesting thing, right? A lot of people tell me, oh yes, you know, when I'm answering some difficult things, then my English just slows down. But if you're answering some difficult things, your Portuguese is slowed down too, right? Because now you have to think about what it is and then explain to other people, right? So it's normal, right? And a lot of times, I can tell you this, for example, right here, right at the event, that you know you see what just happened. You heard the beep, right, from WhatsApp, right? You see what just happened. I'm speaking with you, and then WhatsApp ping. And because I'm having to pay attention to those things, right? Unfortunately, because this, you know, I'm running the event, right? So I'm not only here talking to you, but I'm also running the event. And so that means, you know, when there's a problem somewhere, someone's going to ping me, right? And I at least have to pay attention to that to make a decision if I have to take action or not. So what just happened is that I got a message from Juliana, that's part of my team, that she's right there working with us here. And so she was just notifying me that everything is okay, right? But on that split second that I had to pay attention to what she was writing, I lost my train of thought here, right? So that's normal, man. I mean, even if I speak in Portuguese, that would happen, right? And so a lot of people kind of think a lot of people want their English to be better than their native language, right? And that's very, very, very hard, right? So yes, of course, you know, if you need to think a lot, right, then it's because you're having to solve a problem. You have to think a lot. Then that will slow down your explanations, no matter which language you're going to be using, right? So this is important for you to understand, Fernando. So of course you have to practice, and a good way to practice is practice for the interviews, right? Because that's, you know, you can, for example, if you're doing a presentation, right, and you've done the presentation many times, even if your English is not very good, your presentation is going to be awesome. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, your English is great, because you can prepare for the presentation. And interviews are similar, right? Because you can prepare for the interviews, right? So you know you're gonna talk about, you know the stories you're gonna tell, you know the answers you're gonna speak. So you can prepare for that. So you know, so you're not looking for words, right? Oh, some words are missing. You should not be missing words, honestly, right? Because you can prepare for the interview. So what's this interview about? What is this company going to ask you? What kind of technology they're interested in? Now, so you can totally prepare for the interviews, so you can speak more fluently during the interviews. So that's doable, Fernando. So I think that your English, from what you're telling me, from what you're paying attention here with all of us, I think your English is probably a lot better than you think, right? So Rodrigo, that now lives in New York, right? So Rodrigo has moved to New York from some years ago. He says that's normal. In vocabulary, you only improve with time. You need to find a way to practice, right? There used to be websites, apps where you can talk to someone from English-spoken country, right? Not sure they're still there. Yeah, so there's one that's very famous right now, italki. So italki is it's one where you can connect with people with different languages. You can actually pay to speak with people. There's also some of the websites like this that are free, that that you can talk with other people that want to talk, right? So take a look at those. But Rodrigo is very, very very right here, is that you gotta speak. You gotta speak a lot. You gotta practice every single day, Fernando, right? So that's for the English. But now the whole idea of practice every single day, because now actually the thing I want to tell you, Fernando, is that you are asking a few things here that I think you're mistaken. My opinion, I think you're mistaken, right? You say that I have to train algorithms because it's very often to be required abroad, but it's not something very common here, right? Well, no, it's not. It's not required or common or anything like this, right? It just depends on what kind of work you want to do. And especially, it just depends what kind of interview you're going to fall into, right? That's a really important thing. Once you get, a lot of people think that the best way for you to get a job is actually going and doing a lot of interviews and all of that. And then the worst thing of all, that's for me, it's kind of really hurts me, is hearing people saying, oh, I didn't pass the interview because my English was bad, or because, I didn't know algorithms enough, or anything like that, right? So I didn't pass the interview because any of those things, right? And basically, one thing that you have to understand is that, most probably, right? And I wrote a book about this, by the way, right? I wrote a book about this, just explain that thing, because most probably, when you go to an interview, there's two paths on this interview, right? Two paths, right? One is the path of rejection, right? It's because most of those interviews that I did was to work in the financial sector. Yes, that might be, right? So if you're working with companies in the financial sector, they're trying to solve financial problems, maybe algorithm is really important, right? But there's another reason, right? The financial area is also very competitive, right? So they pay well, so it's very competitive. So maybe that's not even the reason, right? Rodrigo says I was working in the financial sector, right? So financial sector is very competitive. So here's the problem, Fernando. There's two paths for an interview. Two paths. One is the acceptance path, and the other one is the rejection path. So how does that work, right? So the rejection path is that one where you send a resume, and they look at your resume, and so you fall into the rejection path, right? So you send a resume, you're already on the rejection path, right? So so you send a resume, and the whole job, the whole process of the interview has one objective, is to reject you, right? That's what they want, right? They received 100 resumes, and they have to reject 90 of those, right? And get 10 of those to go to interviews, right? And then from those interviews, they have to select 5 people from the interview, and then out of those 5 people, there's someone in the company is going to choose one, right? Or 2. Okay, so that's the rejection process. The whole objective is to reject. So, okay, we're not gonna even talk with those first 90 people. Not even gonna talk to them. Oh, then there's 10 people. We're gonna interview. We're gonna do several interviews with them and reject until the idea is this: until it's left what was supposed to be the two best ones, right? Oh, so those are the two best ones. Amazing. Those are the guys we're gonna hire. So that's the rejection process. Okay. Very normal. We all have been through this process, and that's fun. And by the way, if this, okay, so this is the biggest mistake that people think, and that's when I got sorry, right? The biggest mistake people think is that, well, because I am in the rejection process, I assume that everyone else is also on the rejection path. So if I was rejected, it's because I was not good enough compared to the other ones, right? And so I was rejected because someone else was better than me. Now, the problem with that, right, that reasoning, Fernando, is that while you are going through the rejection process, there probably is 1, 2, 3, maybe 10 people going through the acceptance process, right? So what is the acceptance process? The acceptance process is people that the company wants to hire, right? So people that they call in, they got, hey, Fernando, look, we really want you to work for us, right? Could you come here, talk to me, right? So they call you in, right? Oh, no, not an interview process like this. It's like, it's someone that knows you, Fernando, not like a recruiter that finds you on LinkedIn, someone that knows you, right? To the acceptance path, right? So what is the acceptance path, Fernando? The acceptance path is when someone, I'm just going to use one word. Acceptance path is the path of trust, right? So when people trust you, because that's the whole point of the interviews, right? The interviews, I'm interviewing you and I'm talking to you because what I want is I want you to see if you are trustworthy. I mean, if I can trust you. Oh, not if you lie or you steal. No, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about, of course, those things too. But what we're talking about here is that if I can trust you as the person that will solve my problem, that's going to solve my problem, my project, that's going to solve the problem of my company, that's going to solve the problem of my team, right? So I'm trying to figure out if you are a trustworthy person, right? If you are the right person that's going to solve my problem. So the whole interview process is a process of trust. Now, the rejection path, right? The rejection path, we got a lot of people, right? And then we're going to cut. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this guy. Well, this guy, not this one. Oh, okay, there's just 2 left here. So let me go one step above, right? And let's see if I can do interviews with them. And so, oh yeah, they passed the interview. Let me see another thing here. Let me throw a lot of problems to them, and let's see if they pass here. Oh well, and then now, okay, so this guy didn't pass, and then, all right, oh, there's just 1 left. Is that good? That means I'm gonna hire this guy? No, it doesn't mean I'm gonna hire this guy. You know why? Because there is another process that very few people are part of, right? Those are people that I already trust. I already trust them, right? Because I know them. I know I've seen their presentations. I've read their blogs. I read their books. I know them. They worked with me in the past. They study with me. I mean, anything, right? I trust them already. So trust is already a given. Maybe someone from my team has worked with them. I already trust them. So now the thing is, yeah, this guy is still going to go through some interviews, right? I mean, he's still going to check if he's technical enough. But, I'm going to be a lot less detailed here because I trust this guy already. I trust him. He's the right person for my job. I know he can solve the problem that I have, right? And so once I do that, you see the problem here? Look, if this says yes for me, so I'm trying to hire him and he says yes, you know, those guys here, they're going to receive a no, right? And it has nothing to do with the technology or with what they did or anything like that. You know, they might be amazing. They might even be better than this person here. But I trust this person more because I know it. It's a lot different. It's a big difference than I trust someone because they told me they can do the job, right? Or because I worked with him and I know he can do the job, right? So trust is the word here. So the rejection process, it's made to reject people until I find someone that I can trust. And the acceptance process starts from trust. I trust you already. And so now it's a discussion that, do you want to work for me or not? Make sense, Fernando? So that's one thing that you have to understand. It's really, really, really important, right? So here's the thing that you got to understand about trust. When people trust you before they need you, they trust you before they need you. When they need you, they call you, Fernando, and not someone else. Make sense? When people trust you before they need you, when they need you, they call you and not someone else. All right? So that's the thing here. Here, you don't have trust. So you're building the trust through the interview process. Here, you already have trust. So it's a completely different interview process. And the problem is, if everyone was going through this process here, that would be good, right? That would be perfect, fine. Because then we're competing with other people and, you know, we all are okay with competition. But the problem is, look, if I already trust you, then you're not going through this process, right? So if there's one person not going through this process, it's you know, so what you want, Fernando, is you want to be that person that is that's trusted. The cool thing about this is that trust does not depend on the company. It's not the company that decides to trust you. It's you that makes this. Trust is all about you. You can create trust around you. You can create the trust that's needed around yourself. So when you do that, then things start changing in a very, very positive way, because then people start trusting you before they need you, right? And so there's a lot of people here to mention these things, right? So Yada, for example, talking about networking. Network's a great way to build trust. You know, Kirk Pepperdine talking about, and Heinz and Kirk talking about events, right? And how they organize J Create event, for example, right? So that's a great way to build trust. We're going to have a conversation here later on today with Jennifer, right? Jennifer is going to talk about, you know, the Java Champions program. So that's another way that you build trust. I mean, so that you can build trust around yourself, right? You know, so Rodrigo here, for example, is one of the responsible for the New York Java SIG, right? And so that's another way of building trust, right? So participate in communities. That's another way of building trust. Otavio Santana talking here about how he participated on open source projects, right? How he built his career around open source. That is another way of building trust. So there's a lot of discussion here about trust, right? That people, I mean, I know they did not use that word. I understand that, but you know, there's a lot of discussion around this because you know, trust, it's what makes a big difference here. All right. So all right. Does that make sense, Fernando? Oh man. Look, I just got that is a very surprising guest here because I have no, I know he said he would try to stop by, but I didn't know when. So I want you all to prepare for this amazing guest right here, right? So I want you to introduce to you guys my good friends and one of the top evangelists in the planet, Mr. Edson Yanaga.
Hello, Bruno.
Director
Hello,
of Red
everyone.
Hat.
Uh, yes, well, I guess I'm a surprise guest. I just showed up here, and yes, I couldn't miss the International Developer Career Day. Being here with one of the best developers in the world, some people that helped so many developers worldwide to improve their careers. Well, I think I needed to show up.
Thanks very much, man. Thanks very much. It was very gracious of you to showing up. I had talked with Edson if he could join in, but he is on vacation with his family, and he was like, I'm not so sure I can participate. So let me see if I can change my schedule around. Let's see if I can trick the kids a little bit. Probably that's what you did, right? Trick the kids. Hey kids, look that video game. And then you come here really quick, right? So I don't know what you did, man. Whatever it was, I'd like to thank you in the name of everyone here. I'd like to thank you because it's awesome that you took some time to be here with us. Thanks a lot, man.
Well, my pleasure. And I can see that you have a lot of great speakers talking today. And well,
Yes.
of course, it's always an honor for me to be here with you and with all of these amazing people.
Cool, very cool. So Edson, we're talking here about interviews and about because Fernando is talking about his English and his interview, and me and you travel all over the world with kind of having to deal with different languages and speaking with different people, and some places I mean, there's lots of places you talk to people that their English is not very good, and it's all fine. We do interviews with people that don't have English very good. So how but you in particular, right? You are very, very conscious, and you kind of like go really deep on improving your English. I mean, there's not a lot of people that do the effort that you do, right? You try to learn how to say the words the right way, and you want to improve so you don't sound like a foreigner, for example, right? I'm not sure how happy you are with your English right now, but I know you take very good care of this. So can you start by giving some suggestions on how you improve your English, because I know you're very careful with that.
Yeah, I know it's when we say, and I say that Fernando, which like gave us this question, by his name, I suppose he's Brazilian. And
Right.
I know most Brazilians, we have this issue. We think that our English is not good enough, that we have a lot of accents, we don't know how to speak properly. And it might be true, but we're not in a worse shape compared to the other people in other countries that don't have English as a first language. So, and most people don't care about that, because the important thing that when we're talking with other people is to be able to communicate with other people. So, we have a Brazilian accent. I have a Brazilian accent. Bruno has a Brazilian accent because we're Brazilian. French people, they have a French accent. And you have British people, they have a British accent. Even right now, I live in North Carolina here in the US. And you would realize that every single state has a different accent. So one of the things that I learned, I guess, is that there's no such thing as a right accent, because you have like only different accents. But what I usually strive, because I'm a perfectionist, I'm always it really bothers me when I can't pronounce some words in a proper way. And actually, I'm in a point in my life that I think I was very proficient in Portuguese, and now I'm trying to be proficient in English too. But what I realized that after 3 years living abroad, I'm not as proficient in Portuguese as I used to be. I'll never be as proficient in English as I was in Portuguese. So I just have to accept that. And I don't think it's bad. I think the more ways you have to communicate with people, it's better. And regarding the accent, as long as people can understand you, I don't care about the accent. And you know, as Brazilians and as other people, when we're listening to others, don't we really strive to understand other people? I guess like most other people, if they're really kind, if they're really there to engage in a conversation, they will try to understand you. And if you think like about our accent or English as lower than others, a very nice experience that I had about English. If you go to an East Asian country, like if you go to Japan, if you go to Korea, you will realize they have a very hard time listening and speaking in English. And why is that? Because their languages, they have very few sounds, so it's very hard for them to recognize the sounds of the English words, and it's very hard for them to speak those words because they don't have the same sounds. And what I do when I traveled over there is to try to speak very slowly. And I know a bit of Japanese too, so I know the sounds they understand. And it's amazing how they are happy when you're really like trying to communicate with them. I think that's the main thing that you have to do. You have to the ultimate goal is to communicate with other people. You should forgive yourself and other people about their accents. But if you really want to try to improve, what I usually do, and now when I arrived in the US, I would have to when my kids would be speaking English, I would correct them with the pronunciation. These days is the opposite. Whenever I pronounce something like wrong, they try to fix me. But whenever you realize, or when somebody tell you, or when you hear yourself, like have a recording, you hear yourself. I always try to listen and listen to other people too, and always try to reproduce those same sounds. I know it's hard because your brain is already wired to pronounce it the other way, but if you try really hard, like even like after 100 times, maybe you're able to incorporate that particular accent or that particular pronunciation to certain words.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Edson, you've had such a awesome career, right? A lot of people see you as like international speaker, director of Red Hat. You moved from Brazil to the US, and you travel all over the world. You're a Java champion. You're a Microsoft MVP. You have an awesome career, right? But Vinicius is asking here, so what was the hardest step in your journey to be where you are today, right? So what is the thing that you really struggle in doing it, and you didn't want to do, or it was really, really hard for you to do to get where you are? You have one like this. I know you had some very hard times in your life, right? I'm not sure if we're talking about hard times in your life or about hard decision you had to make, right? So
Yeah, I don't know if I could say about hard times. Well, I've told this story a couple of times, even in some other events. Bruno know my particular story, and I don't know if it's hard, but whenever I think back in my career, even all the things I've struggled in the past, all the hard times, like I'm a person, I'm 41 years old as of today, and I'm a person that is already like
today,
bankrupt twice in my
it's
life.
not your birthday today, is it?
Well, sorry, Bruno, I lost your video. I don't know if you're trying to say something.
Oh, okay. So go ahead. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna reboot here. Can you hear me?
Yes, now it's good. So, and when I look back in my career, I would say that every single bad thing that happened for me in the past was that led me to be here today, what I'm doing. Like I guess like I was a technical person. I had like strong technical skills. In the beginning of my career, I thought I knew everything. So I suppose I was very arrogant as a person. Then I became bankrupt for the first time. Then I improved a bit, not much, not enough, I guess. But then, well, we just struggled through. And when I went to the second time I was bankrupt in my career, I just realized that, well, whatever I was doing was not good enough. I would need to change what I was doing if I ever wanted to keep doing what I was doing. And what was missing in my career was the people part. And to be completely honest with you, what helped me in the past 10 years to improve my career and it helped me a lot to achieve some of my goals was that I give more importance these days to my people skills, to my communication skills, to my kindness skills, rather compared to my technical skills. And I think that's what is helping me to improve my career. And I even shared this in a talk like 2 weeks ago. I think the kindness, the sympathy, your ability to communicate, your ability to write properly in a way that is welcoming to other people. If you really strive to be understood and to understand what other people needs, I think that's the most important things I did in my career that helped me and that are still helping me. So if I could give you any kind of tips regarding this, like the hardest thing that I had to learn was that my entire life as a kid and as a teenager, I always like super shy. I didn't want to talk to people. And to be very honest with you, I don't have like any friends left from my childhood, from my teen years. Uh, and the very best friends that I have left, I just like I got them in the past 10 years. So I don't have that kind of good memories from the past. But since I've learned how to be more like a people person, I think it really helped me in my career, and that's what I'm still trying to do every single day. And that's the main tip that I give to other people. That's what I try to teach my kids too. Like my older son, he's a very talkative person. Well, because he's kind of like his mother. But my younger son, he's just like me. He's super shy. He doesn't want to engage with people, and that's what I keep telling him. Well, it will be the most important thing that you will need when you grow up will be your ability to talk and communicate to people. So you should be practicing every day because that's what I do. I'm still a super shy person, but whenever I have the opportunity, and sometimes I struggle a lot with that, I always try to be nice, to be kind, and to talk to people because I want the opportunity to know all of these amazing people that are like out there. And maybe if I'm really trying to become a good person, maybe I can share some of this kindness with other people too. So that's the goals that I have when I'm trying to talk and communicate with people, and it really helped me. And now that I have this role as an evangelist, I think because when I started my career as a university teacher, like an undergraduate and graduate teacher, it was only because I needed the money. So and well, being a university teacher in Brazil doesn't pay that much. So I was just really trying to survive. But the 15 years that I was a university teacher, it really helped me to shape my the skills that I have today. And I think a really nice skill that I have today is to try to explain things to people in a very simple way. And it helps me not only when giving talks or when writing something. It's really nice when you need to communicate something to other person. Like, I need something from you. If I'm able to communicate that very clearly, it's easier to achieve my goals because the other person knows what I need. And when I try to help other people trying to achieve that, I think it's like it's an asset I've earned, and that's another thing that I could share with you. Like if you when you try to teach people, if you try to teach your kids, for example, you know if you really know something, and you learn even more when trying to teach other people. So communication again, I guess people skills is the most important thing that I learned in the past few years.
Você sabe, você tá deletando umas imagens aí, né? Sabe disso, né?
Okay, Bruno, I can hear in
All right.
Portuguese. Oh, and Rodrigo, now I found the chat.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Rodrigo is
I'm
mentioning.
sorry. I put on mute, but I took off the mute. I had to say something here. But okay. So yeah, you can see the chat now, right? So Rodrigo says, I still want to watch and learn from Yanaga for several years, right? So I'm not sure. I think either I think I said something in the past, but I'm sure think you still have a big career going forward for sure. So Lidio asks, could indicate the best way to train speech, or I imagine training to not only English speak, but train how to talk, like presentations kind of thing. Rodrigo suggests Toastmaster.org. There is a website for, actually there's a community for speaking engagements and things like this. But I'm not even sure if we have Toastmaster.org in Brazil or not. But in our area, Edson, there is a lot of opportunities to speak and to share knowledge with other people. A lot of people complain about how fast technology moves. So we are always needing people that they're willing to share and teach, right? So you already said that you started by being a university professor, but you think it's the same thing, like teach at university and give a talk in an event, for example? Is it similar, comparable?
When I became a university teacher, I thought it was different. Very different, because I used to be like very serious. The traditional way that you see a university teacher, that's what I try to behave. But today, I think they should be the same. If they're not the same, at least they should be the same. Like I like to say that there is no reason for that when you're trying to teach somebody that you can't entertain the other people, right? And Rodrigo here mentioned Toastmasters. I've never heard about Toastmaster before coming here to the US. Not even moving, coming here to the US for this first time as a Red Hat employee. And whenever I arrive in Raleigh, because the Red Hat office is here in Raleigh, North Carolina, I arrived on a Thursday. I arrived in the morning. I was meeting the people for the first time, and they said, "Oh, today at lunch, we're going to have a Toastmaster session." And I said, "What is that?" Just people just hang around because they're trying to train their speaking skills, and you should join us. Well, I don't have anything for lunch. I guess I can join you guys. And so we went to the Toastmaster meeting. We were having like some snacks over lunch, and then there was a contest. And on this contest was like Rafael, which was my colleague at the time. He said, "Oh, you should join the contest just for you to practice." Yeah, why not? I'm just here. Let's do the contest, and I won. So it was like, oh, you have to improvise. They give you like a random word, and you need to create your speech. Like you have 2 minutes to create something and talk to people, to create a story, and okay, let's try to do it. So it was very, very, very interesting. But I guess it can be challenging if you don't have the practice. So, but what I could say is like, you don't have to talk like a university teacher. You don't need to be a public speaker. Another thing that I still want to do, I want to try to be a stand-up comedian. So, and I know it's super hard because I'm not like a funny person, but I know there are some techniques that you can learn. So, well, maybe I should strive to. I'm reading some books about it, because we have some techniques around that. But even in your personal life, well, when you're grabbing some beer and eating with your friends in the table, don't you sometimes want to tell some story? And when you want to tell a story to other people, you want that story to be engaging. You want the people your friends to be interested. You want everybody in the table to stop and listen to what you're telling. Well, giving talks and giving public speech is not different. Maybe the subject is different, but every time you're talking to someone, you're telling some story. Maybe it's your story, maybe it's my story, maybe the story is the story that you want to give to that people. So we're always telling stories, and even when I'm acting as a university teacher, as a professor, even on that, I'm telling a story to my students. And of course, I want them to learn. I want to motivate them. So I want to entertain them. And that's the way, that's how my brain works these days. I think of myself not as a teacher strictly in the strict sense. I think of myself as an entertainer. So I think that the time that we're staying together, I think it should be entertaining. So that's what I strive to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, when you talk about stories, there's one thing. Okay, so Vegan's not here in audio, but Renato is, so I think that's fine. It's probably on his side there. So one thing that I hear a lot, Edson. There's two things about telling stories since you mentioned this, and you know, so I want to ask you a question about story, but one thing first I want to just tell, um, lead you right on in terms about the best way to train speech. So the best way to train is actually go teach something to someone, right? You know, and you can do this to your colleague. And a lot of people think that, oh, I need for me to be a speaker, I need to go on a stage and have hundreds of people listen to me or something like this. An event has to approve my talk, and none of that is necessary, right? You know, you can talk to your friends in your work. You can talk with, you can go to a university near your house or the university you study, and go there and teach a little thing that you know. You can go to high schools, right? That they want to have like this career days, right? Where people from different areas come to tell the students, about the area, right? So I mean, you can find places where you can go and talk, Lidio. So I would suggest you to start with a coworker, right? Teach something to someone near you. Schedule a conversation. Instead of you going to Toastmaster.org, for example, because you might say, well, but it's a practice for speaking. Well, how about you get something from your project and teach everyone else, kind of speak to everyone else, have a conversation, not even a talk, right? It's a conversation with everyone else from your team. And those things will help you a lot. But Edson, one thing that I hear, a lot of these kind of things when people tell stories is that we see a lot of speakers that they come in and they tell like this long saying, oh, someone told me to tell stories, right? So I'm going to give a talk about Java, right? It's a technical talk. So I'm going to start telling the story of my life, right? So when I was 2 years old, I saw a computer, there's a Java logo, and say, yes, I'm going to be a Java programmer. You've heard that stories before many times, right? So there's these kind of stories. And then there's people on the other side that says, look, I'm going to do a technical talk, right? So there's no technical talk. I'm just going to present. And it's like when the time ends, I still want to present even more, right? So, I mean, what story you're talking about? Is it possible to tell stories in a technical talk? And also, do we have to tell the stories of our lives so we can tell stories? How does that work?
Well, there's always a story. You don't have to tell the story of your life every single time you have a talk, or even when, like, in any situation. Like, if you're in a project and if you think that this particular framework, this particular technique, this particular tool is better for the project, you have a story to tell. And of course, you don't have to go through, oh, I was born when I was a kid or something like that. But again, there are techniques for you to tell stories about technical stuff to other people. So, for example, whenever you're telling a story, for example, what you're proposing is probably the solution. The solution is always the last part of the story. And before you give the solution, you have to give the context. And whenever you give the context, you always have the problem, because if you have a solution, that's the solution to a certain problem. So how do you do that? Well, you always, as usual, it depends on how much time do you have to talk to people. Like if your story is just like in a team meeting, you're trying to convince other people what is happening. The context is just the problem that you're facing, and why you're struggling with that, and why your solution is going to help to make every people's lives like easier. So that's a whole story that you can tell this story, for example, in 2 or 3 minutes. But there's always some kind of story that you can tell. If you start your story with the solution, people won't pay attention to that because they don't know how that hurts them. And again, I'm saying hurt them because every single story has an emotion component. So, and we as developers, I used to think like that in the past. We as most of us are math people, So we think that, oh, we always make like technical decisions. Our decisions are based in facts and not in emotions, which is a completely lie, a total lie. Humans, they always make decisions based on emotions. So what is the best way for people to choose your site, like to buy your story? Well, if you make people feel the right emotions, they will buy your story. So that's why whenever you're trying to tell a story to somebody about a solution, if you give people the solution, they won't buy it because, well, they didn't feel the pain. So another way for you to make people to listen to your story is that if you give the proper context, if you make people realize, oh, I know what you're talking about. Oh, I feel the same thing. Oh, we have this problem. Yes, I feel the same thing. Oh, remember that opportunity in the past, that day when we were up late at night, we were trying to fix that particular bug. Well, when you trigger people's memory, yes, you make people feel the same thing that you want them to feel. And when you have this emotional trigger, like people are feeling the same thing that you are feeling, then that they already engaged in your story. Then you have their attention. Then it's time for you, well, when that happened, and why that happened? That happened because of this and this and this. And because of all of this, I'm giving you the solution, okay? So first, in any story, you trigger the emotional components, and then, but because we think we're rational people, well, I trigger the emotional components, then I'm going to give the facts for you, not because you need the facts to be convinced about that, but because you think you're rational. Well, you're going to justify your decision based on the facts. So you give the emotional trigger, then you need the facts to make for their brain to make this particular compensation, and then you provide your solution. And it might sound like awkward what I'm trying to tell you. Like you give the emotional trigger, then you give the facts for compensation, but that's how that's how the selling process. And when I'm saying selling, it's not selling a product, it's selling an idea or selling a story. That's how the selling process works. Okay, so always start with an emotional trigger, then give the facts to compensate for the emotional trigger, and then you provide your solution. And after you press it enough times, you can do that in 2 minutes, or you can do that for 2 hours. Okay, but it's always the same story. Okay, and if you have a 1 hour long talk, depending on what you're talking, you can even have like more than one cycle inside the same talk. We have emotional trigger, facts, 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 partial solution, another emotional trigger, facts, 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 and the final solution. You can build a story around that. And if we're talking about practicing too, Toastmaster, I mentioned that. But what I do, and I know it doesn't work for everybody, but I talk to myself. So I always imagine the experience when I have people in front of me, even if it's an informal conversation or whenever I'm giving a talk to a lot of people. Sometimes, and my wife complains a lot about that because usually, well, he hears me talking to myself. So I'm imagining the situation, and I'm talking to people. I rehearse this particular situation multiple times, and I always try to think, oh, what was the outcome? What if I did this, and what if I did that? So I think it's a way to practice. And some people think I'm crazy. I hope not much. Well, my wife is pretty sure I'm crazy. But that's another way for you to practice those skills.
All right, that's awesome. So Lido says, okay, Bruno, thanks so much. Hattie says, nice. So awesome. All right. So come on, guys. What else? What other question you have here for Edson? Right. We have a few more minutes here. Actually, right after this talk from Edson, we're gonna have the presence here of Heather Vancura. Right. She's gonna be here talking about the JCP, right, and the evolution of Java. So make sure that you stay for that. So that's actually, let me transition into this thing, Edson, because you now are being part of the future of the Java technology, the future of architecture, right? I mean, you're one of the guys that is promoting and helping happen, the Quarkus framework and all the technology behind it. So you're this future of the future of technology in general, future of architecture. So what can you tell us a little bit about in terms in terms of where the future is going to go, right? Where you see Java going, so we all can kind of point our careers in the right direction.
Well, when was that? In the Java 1 keynote 2009, 2010, we had that message like Java is everywhere. And we dreamt about this future, like Java will be everywhere. And I don't think that Java is going to be everywhere just the way that we saw in a keynote 11 years ago. But Java is doing very well for anybody that asks about it. And I mentioned this in other opportunities. I really thought that before I retire, I would have to learn a new technology because Java wasn't keep up the pace with the new technology that the things that were happening in our market. But thanks to some great things that happened in the Java space in the past 2 years, for example, I feel very comfortable to say that yes, I'll be able to retire being a Java developer. And even if you're learning Java today, even if you just started the university your university course right now, even if you learn Java today, you'll be able to retire being a Java developer because Java is growing, it's not shrinking. And we have some great technologies that are filling some spaces. For example, we have like GraalVM, which allows you to have like ahead of time performance optimizations and compilations, allows you to have like very short startup times and lower memory consumption. We have some technologies like Quarkus, which even improves this low memory consumption and startup performance. And it's really tied to the enterprise Java world, so you can reuse your existing skills, like the existing enterprise skills, and yet still be super fast and super small. With Quarkus, for example, we can be even more productive than Node.js when developing because you have this very nice feedback loop where you just save, you go to your browser, you refresh, and everything is automatically there in a matter of 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds. So that's how much Java evolved. And this is on the framework part. Quarkus is on the framework part. GraalVM is on JVM. And regarding the JVM, the OpenJDK team is doing a great job. And I can see some features coming in the next months or even years. For example, now we're seeing Java 14 had records. I hope that until Java 17, we will have not only records in the final version, but also we're going to have some value types, which means that not every single object in Java will need to have a reference. When Java provides us with, when the JVM provides us with value types, it means that Java will be better than Python for machine learning, which means that many of the workloads that people are using today with Python, they will be able to use Java for the same thing. And they only choose Python these days because Python has value types, which means that Python is very efficient when dealing with like a huge amount of data sets into memory. And with Java, it's not possible because it will be slower because, well, Java doesn't have value type. When it does, Java will be faster. And I learned today, like some months ago, that the only fast enough Python environment to dealing with this data manipulation is CPython, because the other Python like flavors, they don't perform well enough. And I'm pretty sure that because of the Java performance, when we have value types and we take out this performance and memory overhead, Java will be the best technology for data science too. Well, we're already using Hadoop or Spark Java, for example. So yes, Java will be on the big data landscape too. And Java already runs on ARM. So we're seeing this movement in our industry. Now Apple announced that it's moving away from Intel to like x86 to ARM processors. All our mobile phones are ARM processors. all the IoT devices are using ARM processors because of their low energy consumption. And so yes, part of the future is running on ARM, and Java has been running on ARM for a long time. And I can tell that even at Red Hat, for example, people are constantly optimizing the OpenJDK, for example, to run on ARM machines. So yes, the future will go through for ARM device too, and that's some of the predictions that I'm giving you. It's like not long-term predictions. I guess all of these will be happening in the next 5 years. So yes, we have a lot of things happening in the next 5 years. And I can see a question here from Lidio. He's asking, give us an example about emotional trigger. And I'm really jealous about people because that's why I don't like to talk about my career and personal life, because it doesn't mean that it was a super hard life, or because I struggled more than anybody else in the world or something like that. I don't like talking about my career and personal life because I always cry when I do that. And again, because it was hard for me. And whenever I do that, I trigger an emotional response from my brain, and I can talk like without crying. But you don't have to cry when you're delivering your talk. When they say emotional trigger, it's like what connects us humans with each other are the emotions. Okay, and these emotions, they can be joy, they can be pain, they can be kindness, they can be love, they can be hate. And you can use all of these emotions whenever you're selling any kind of story, not only a technical technical talk. But an example of emotional trigger, for example, I do that very frequently. For example, whenever I'm giving a DevOps talk, I always tell the story of, well, it works on my machine because every single developer felt the same thing. Well, it's not running in production, but it's working on my machine. And you know, like the anger, you know, the pain when this kind of bug happens. Well, every single developer already felt this kind of emotion. And whenever you create a story that connects to that particular moment, well, it works on my machine, you already created an emotional trigger. And you can tell every single time you tell this story, and it's true for everybody will have the same reaction because they felt the same thing that you're telling them right now. So yes, that's an example of emotional trigger. Another emotional trigger that I do in some talks, for example, well, remember, you created that particular code, you're coding like this, you're coding like that, and you created a perfect class. Your code is amazing, it's going to run in production perfectly, yet you deploy into production and you give that no point, you have that no pointer exception, and that particular variable was supposed to be never null, yet it is. And then you just keep debugging your code like crazy in your machine. Well, it's never null, but yet it is in production. Well, you already felt the pain. Well, I don't know why this variable is null. Well, you created an emotional trigger. People know what you're saying. So that's how you create this emotional trigger in other people. You use the emotional triggers that happened to you in the past. It's the best way for you to share that. And I'm pretty sure that if you talk to other people, again, the secret is talking to other people. When you're going to grab some coffee and talk to other people, well, that's when you share those stories, like with your colleagues, isn't it? Well, that's how you learn what are the emotional triggers that happens to everybody.
Yeah, that's perfect, Edson. Perfect. Yes, the whole point, and a lot of times people think that you have to have the exactly same thing, right? That happen, right? So, but I'm just gonna tell this story here, right? When you if you tell a story, for example, that you had a discussion with your boss, right? And then you talk about the emotions, right? And so it's not about the facts, right? That's the important thing. It's not about the fact. Oh, I walked into my boss room and we had a discussion, and then I went back home and I was sad, right? That's not the fact, right? So those would be the facts. But the whole thing is about the emotion, right? So I was in the room with my boss, and he told me some things, and I felt like really bad. And I want to scream at him, but I was afraid to scream at him, because if I scream at him, he could fire me. And so, so I mean, you talk about the emotions, right? Now, when you do this, what happens is that, well, maybe the person you're talking to never had a discussion with his boss, right? Or never, so you're saying, but what if he never had a discussion with his boss in the past? Well, but he had a discussion with someone, right? He had a discussion with his friends, had a discussion with his wife, had a discussion with his kids. I mean, he had a discussion with someone. So those are the common emotions that we human beings feel, right? And so once we start working on those emotions, once we start touching on the things that we all feel, that's when we that's the empathy that everyone talks about, right? So that's when we get empathy with the speaker, right? And like, okay, so I know what the speaker is feeling. I'm with the speaker on the same problem. So that's the thing, right? When the speaker tells you a problem and he talks about emotions, then you put yourself into the same emotion. So you go into the problem with the speaker. And now when the speaker shows you the solution to that, then you, with the speaker, you get out of the problem with the speaker. And then like, whoa, you have the aha moment. Like, yes, that's what I need to do to solve my other thing that I have to do. So it's all about the emotions. And it's a great way for you to think about talks and think about how you can help people. Because that's the best way, right? Why we do this, Edson, right? We don't do this just to kind of push Quarkus on to everyone, right? We don't do this just to trick people into believing us. Why do we do this? Why do we learn how to share? Why do we learn how to be like a stand-up comedy, right? Why do we do those things?
Yeah, and I can tell that, well, today I work for Red Hat, but I guess that I really work for Edson Yanaga. Like, my reputation is more valuable than anything that I tell or sell. That in every single conversation that I have, in every single talk, I will never say anything to people that I didn't believe it would help them. So my ultimate goal in anything that I'm doing is to help people. And if I can't help people with what I'm saying, well, it's better for me to stay quiet. At least that's the way I think. So the ultimate goal in my career, and that's what the mission that I took for myself, because when I was struggling back in the past, I needed a reason. I needed a why to keep to be able to keep doing what I was doing, like being a developer and doing software. And I took for myself this particular goal. My goal was to make the best software that I could every single day, and I would make the software that I did today like look very bad, because today I would be a better programmer, and I would try to help developers, like other developers, in any way that I could. And I'm very happy that after like many years, I'm able to do that in a worldwide scale, because I was helping my colleagues. I was helping people in my city, in my jug, then was able to help people in other conferences in Brazil, and now I'm able to help like many people worldwide, even like in person or virtually, just like we're doing today. So that's the goal that I took for me, and it really helped to shape the way that I do the things today. It really helped to shape my people skills these days. Yes. And looking back at the point that Bruno was taking, is like the emotional triggers. I tried with a lot of different emotions in the past, like trying to engage people. And I can tell by my experience, the best emotions for you to engage people are, of course, are pain, are anger, like the bad feelings. And why is that? Because that's how our brain are wired. Like if you think about your life, most of your life are happy moments. But unfortunately, because that's how our brain was like crafted to remember the things, we usually only remember the bad things, because that's the required memories for survival. Well, you remember, well, don't touch the fire because you're going to get burned. Well, if you did that as a kid, you burned your hand. Well, your brain like got that bad feeling, that bad emotion, and hardwired to your brain, so you always remember that. So Usually the best triggers for, well, the best emotional triggers are the bad ones. When you feel like soreness, when you feel pain, when you feel anger, but usually you try to get the good trigger in the end, like, oh, but you found the solution. Then you feel pride, then you feel joy. So yes, you can play with the emotions, and the best speakers, they're able to mix like a lot of different emotions in the same talk. So you will experience all of these emotions in a single talk.
Man, it's so profound, so unbelievable profound. So everyone's liking here, love it. So okay, so now actually we're gonna switch. So Edson, I can't thank you enough, right? So that's thanks for showing by. Now it's gonna be Heather Vancouver is actually here, right? She is here on the backstage. I see here she getting ready. I'm gonna prove you in 1 second, Heather. So Edson, thanks a lot, man, for participating on this. Such great insights, and hope everyone, look, if you want to stay along, we can create a room for you. We can talk. We can talk with people. I know you're right on vacation. I'm asking you to stay along, but if you want to, just let me know, and we create a room for you if you want. That's awesome. But thanks a lot, man, for taking this time out of your vacation time, out of just to show up here and share that wisdom from us. Thanks a lot, man.
Oh, thank you. Always a pleasure to come here, and you'll be able to enjoy like a super nice session with a great person like Heather. So thank you, Bruno, from the invitation. Well, I can see my kids, they're already calling me back. But if anybody needs to reach out to me, you can always ping me on Twitter at Yanaga here in the bottom. I'll be more than happy to reply to any of you.
Oh.
All right.
Hey, Heather. Well, hey. Good luck and have a nice talk.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to see
All right.
you too.
Thanks a lot, Ed. It was awesome to see you, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.